What's up, Chop and Chat? Welcome back to another episode. We're your host. I'm Dre, aka Yeetsilog,
I'm Anil, aka Big Time Beki.
and yeah, we kind of found a rhythm and flow to this. We're not gonna go show by show because having to do that's kind of tedious, and there as wrestling fans, there's some moments that you just don't care about as much, right? You're still gonna watch the
Yeah.
show, but um, I want to kind of jump it off, and then maybe we can trade off. Ever since you started talking about it, because I was never, um, I just didn't know about them. But the Motor City
Yeah.
Machine Guns, and they changed their intro, right?
I haven't seen it. Oh my god.
Oh, they changed their
Again,
intro.
because um USA Network is
Yeah.
living in the past and thinks people would get cable back. I get my wrestling from freaking YouTube and I just get that highlights. So the 3 hour, 2 hour show is 16 minutes to me. So like cut all the intros. So I haven't really seen it. But because you have to wait 30 days on Peacock. Sorry, I'm really just gonna say this over and over again because it really is the most annoying thing.
Yeah.
But so I haven't. I'm glad to hear that they changed their intro because the first music was really just so bad.
Yeah, and then they added the pyro to it, which makes it really cool.
Oh, cool.
Because it's
Cool.
like it's like
I,
a it's like a shot, it's like a gun where it's like doof doof, and then the pyro's like choo, choo.
good.
Yeah.
Because TNA gave them the respect they deserved with
Yeah.
like a really kick-ass theme music and stuff. But it's also good to see they're being respected by the WWE because I think one of the biggest fears is like, and I don't mean to be mean, but it's like what happened to Bobby Roode, for example, who was a big TNA star and
Right.
then was just ceilinged at NXT and then was never brought back to the main roster.
Yeah.
So there are some because there also are successful ones like Samoa Joe, for example, who was able to transition. Of course AJ Styles. But so I'm glad. I'm glad to see they're getting the respect. I'm glad to see them every week.
Tag
Like
champs.
these, right? Like and really just changing the tag division again. I feel like it almost takes me back to 1998 when the Hardy Boys came in full force and
Yeah.
everybody was just like, who are these guys? Like they're just doing all these moves. And I think the Lucha tag teams do that, but there's I don't think and I don't think they have any like convincing opponents that can high fly like them.
Right.
But Chris and Alex definitely are they're that team.
Yeah. I mean, also they're from I think it's TNA or AEW, but like the Rascal, like the old school, the Rascal crew. I mean, Sans Wesley.
Yeah, they're Rascals. Yeah.
Those guys are great too. I'm just waiting for them to like come up because I know for sure there are really good tag teams in WWE. They're not being utilized as well as I want them to. Like you have talents where it's like that deserve another run, like the Street Profits. You know,
Oh, I was gonna say that shows like the Street Profits.
yeah,
Right.
they're like one of the first things that come to mind where I'm like, they're so good and they're so different as individuals that they just mesh so well together, right?
Yeah, they're very good.
And then like DIY is great, but that's all on the same show. I think on was it Raw they need a strong male tag team,
Yeah.
which is, I mean, thank God the War Raiders are coming through because that's like
Yeah.
a cool new look on a tag team, right? Where it doesn't have to be all high flyers. We can get these like big, robust, like brawny guys just tearing house.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, and it's true because it's like you're right. I mean there are a lot of teams. I just don't think they're being utilized
Right.
as much because it's not like they're lacking in roster depth. It's if anything, this is probably the biggest roster I've seen in years. So yeah, that's true, and I'm still waiting to see who unseats Judgment Day, Finn and Finn Jr.
Yeah,
Like-
Finn and Finn Finn.
Sorry, JD, we love you.
No, yeah, JB. No, but
But-
this brings up a point too, right? Like, to be a successful tag team on any show, do you need a headline storyline that goes with it? Because I think what we might be missing now is just like a good old-fashioned rivalry. right?
Yeah.
Where it's like title trade-offs maybe every other week or every month, but
Yes.
without having to be a part of the bigger story. Because I don't think
Yeah.
if you start trying to force puzzle pieces now, WWE has been doing really great into like laying the groundwork of really cool things. But I mean, okay, so I heard a thing, which might be a rumor that we'll get into later, but that to me feels like forcing a puzzle piece into a bigger thing where I don't think it's needed. It can just exist on its own as like, this is a good team, this is a good team. Let's fight. Like almost how they
Yeah.
did Mello and Andrade, but that just turned stale, right? Like, you know.
Yeah, that was. I don't know. Yeah, something about Andrade. No, sorry, Charlotte. But, like, there's just something about Andrade that I'm like is not sticking as good as I would like it for it to stick. I don't know why, but I hope. But it's not him. I think he's great. I just think they need to find his groove, which
Yeah.
I think now he's starting to slowly get there. I think he's a great athlete.
Oh, yeah.
But I agree with you. And speaking of tag teams, just jumping to the women's division, because I think I remember in our last pod, I was like telling you how upset I was that I don't get why Jade and Bianca had to lose the tag team titles to the witches, and and I was just like, and then now I realize, just watching them this week, like everything they did, I was like, oh God, that is the running theme of our podcast, is to trust the creative process.
It really is.
Because I was like, I think I get it. Because I'm blind. I am a super Bianca and Jade fan. I'm admitting it. I am a super fan. So when they lost, I was like, what the hell was that for? But then I also realized it was needed for them because they were such an invincible team coming out.
Right.
And it was getting so predictable. Every match they were in,
Yeah.
people knew they were going to win because Bianca is a very over baby face, and then Jade is this superstar they're building up. So it was like, yeah, I didn't see that part. That okay, it was getting very predictable, and that win of the Coven did come out of nowhere.
Agatha all along.
Isla and what's off?
Isla Dawn and Alba Fire.
Isla and Alba all along. So it was like, so their team, and I was just like, yeah, and it was good because they got that hometown win, and Jade and Bianca didn't get covered, so that was good. But then now I realized, now that speaking of tag teams, they're doing such a great job bringing the women's tag team front and center now. I think they've learned all from, about freaking time, how long has that division been in shambles?
Right.
So I'm glad that they're picking that up. And, just this week, their performance, although with the women, I don't know if they're doing a War Games thing. That's why they're all just mixing everybody, just to get ready for War Games, which I'm a bit also disappointed because I was hoping there were 2 women War Games matches. But that's just me. I'm a greedy women's fan. But I think their War Games match is going to be one for the books. I think with these casts of characters. And the best part is they didn't need Charlotte or Becky or Rhea to make it something like
Okay.
good.
Yeah. So, oh no. Okay, so last week they shot 2 Raws.
Yeah.
I saw the leak of the other Raw.
Oh no, I haven't. But you can tell me. I am
Also, it might not
for
be
it.
true. It might not be true, right? Like it's whatever it is. So as of right now, the women's War Games match is, and this is a prediction. We'll do like a prediction. It's not real.
Yeah.
Okay. For the bad guy side, the heel side. There you go. It's Naya. It's Tiffy. It's Liv, Raquel, and I think it's gonna be, what's her name? Candice LeRae.
Okay.
I think that's the heel team. I think for the face team, it's gonna be Jade, Bianca, Io, and it's either gonna be Naomi, or Dakota, or Kyrie, right?
Oh wow, it's a wild card.
Right. And then the 5th one is Rhea.
Oh, Rhea's competing?
I think she's coming back for War Games. And then on the men's side, and then we can jump back to the women later if you want to talk more about it. On the men's side, it's OG Bloodline, right? It's New Bloodline, and here's the thing I didn't agree with that I read somewhere that I'm really like, this is forcing the puzzle piece. The fifth member on each team, respectively, is Seth Rollins and Bronson Reed.
I can see that happening. Although I would have preferred a solo match.
Right,
like a rematch.
For
sure.
But
between Bronson and Seth.
I just don't see where it fits the overall story of having them involved in the bloodline thing. Like if you want to put them in a match, just put them in a match, right? But also, this is gonna be like a pod like thing. Trust the creative, right?
Yeah, because I was like, oh my god, I totally ate my... Like, seeing Bianca and Jade now on fire, I was like, oh, they needed to lose. They needed the fans to get back on their side. They need to get their groove back.
Yeah.
But yeah, the men's side... Anyway, Seth and Bronson, I hope Bronson gets the win. I was really not happy that he lost, because I'm like, how many wins does Seth Rollins need? We all know he's really good at this. But I think also it's a great way to establish Bronson down the road, that he's like this really, really capable heel, and hopefully, he put Seth Rollins out for a quick break. you know, he's the storyline that leads to a Seth Rollins vacation, and that establishes his character. But I do hope, you're right. I agree with you on that one. Much better if they had a solo match or just a rematch. Yeah. But oh my god, OG, I can't believe it's happening.
I love it.
I always thought it was like a WrestleMania thing.
I think, and here's the thing too, right? Because everyone assumed it was going to be a certain way with a bloodline. I mean, we're talking OG bloodline. We're rarely talking about new bloodline. Everyone assumed, like, okay, they're just going to pick each other back up and hunky-dory, like, we're good. But there is still dissension. There is still, which is amazing storytelling, because now there's need to bring a wise man back.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Now there's need to have someone as a special counsel, because you can't just have these characters who've been beefing for a year to, like, oh, because we're family, we're good. Like, that's not how family works, right?
Yeah.
And I get it. It's we're good for now because we have to take down a greater evil. But I'm assuming they're going to lose. I'm assuming they're going to lose War Games. Because there really is a need to bring Heyman back. Yeah. And maybe even recruit another, i.e. Talatanga and Zilla, right? Where they come from both sides. So...
I agree, and I think that's perfect, because this orchestra needs a conductor. Yeah. And like I think, okay, great. So that's exciting. Okay, so now I'm starting to see the build or the possibilities of where, because I was like, isn't it too soon? I was like, I don't think the build was as good as I wanted it to be, but again, I don't know when this is gonna end. This could, drag on for years if we're looking at Triple H philosophy here. Yeah. So this might be dragging on for years. But yeah, so I'm excited about that. I love Sami Zayn. I always love him in the Bloodline. I don't know why. It seems like he's supposed to be an odd man out, but he fits in so well like a glove. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm excited about that. I love the build. I love that we're, he's gonna super kick Roman. Like, I loved it. I was like, I was all in for it. That was the great. So Sami Zayn, perfect. So Bloodline wise, I think it's much better now. Cody Rhodes, I don't know what's going on with Cody. He brought Randy to the hospital.
Yeah, when they were building the teams, that's what I didn't want. I didn't want Cody to be the fifth guy. It's not good. Like, it's not. No one wanted that, I think. I think he's taken a mini vacay. Honestly, I haven't seen him in a while. And we're, 2 weeks out from War Games? 3 weeks out?
Yeah.
I mean, there's...
And the Kevin Owens thing is getting repetitive.
Yeah. It's just not there for me yet. Still waiting on Cena. Still don't know what's going on with that. I love the Gunther Damian Priest.
Yes. I was
Now,
gonna say, I was like, in terms of title picture, like superior Ross, like
no, but they're giving
superior.
Gunther weaknesses now, and I love that
Yes,
because there's
because
something
we
going on
yeah
now.
we don't want him to be predictable, and I
Yeah.
think Gunther, the type of booking he had, tends to lean predictable. So I think changing it up now, and then I guess more showing more depth and layers with Ludwig. Also, I was like, oh, they're starting to like build a story here that's more than just Gunther can beat everybody.
Yeah, I think we get a
And
Ludwig turn soon, hopefully. Like he
and
turns on
I
Gunther.
loved it. Because I was Crown Jewel. I was pissed that Gunther lost because I thought Gunther needed it. I was like, Cody doesn't need this title. I was like, he's the poster boy. And again, no matter how many people say he worked hard, I'm not taking that away from him. He worked really hard, but he still started as a Rhodes. So
Yeah.
there was a road paved for him,
Yeah.
So I'm like, he didn't need it. Gunther, I think, is the one who wins tournaments, who holds long title reigns. Give him the Crown Jewel Championship, and then make him be like that unstoppable figure. But again, trust the creative process, because now we see, okay, now it's making sense to me. He did not win because they're opening this new chapter of this character.
Now there's a chink in the armor.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, I'm in for it, because I always see Gunther and he's always like rough and tough, but last Monday he was like concerned and like worried.
Great.
There was like an anxiety. Yeah, I was like, that's good. I like that. What else? Yeah, I like Women's United States title.
Oh, that's
I have mixed feelings. Yeah.
Kalani Jordan lost, right?
No, that's the North America. So they
North
introduced
American.
they introduced the Women's United States Championship. So it's essentially the U.S. title with a white strap.
Yeah.
So
I remember seeing something about that.
yeah. So I'm happy because finally they recognize that it is a very deep roster, and the mere fact that despite the absences of Becky, Charlotte, and Asuka, they're making waves in the women's division, and people are here for it. So I love that there's a secondary title. I'm not sure about the rules. I don't know why they did not introduce a women's Intercontinental title. Maybe they're gonna do that in the Netflix episode.
Maybe it's on Raw.
Yeah, so maybe it's the Netflix episode, so it's something special. Who knows?
Yeah.
So I think, and there hasn't been enough information about the United States title, the women's. But I like the fact that there's a title. My whole my wish list for that, because everybody knew it was coming. My wish list was, I wish they had resurrected the European title and then gave it a women's lineage, where it was, then they can compete in both brands, where it's this multi-brand secondary title for the women. So I was like, please let it be the European Championship. That is old school. Though it did suffer from bad storylines, it still has a very respectable lineage, beginning with Shawn Michaels, or was it the British Bulldog, Shawn Michaels?
William Regal.
Rob Van Dam has held that title. Jeff Hardy, Matt Hardy.
D'Lo Brown.
D'Lo Brown is the quintessential European champ.
You remember all that?
Kurt Angle and Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit also held those titles. So I'm like, it's a pretty solid lineage.
And it's funny because the commentary during his European title reign was just like, D'Lo Brown, he's from Europe, and he's clearly a
yeah. And he was from different cities from Europe every time. So I think that was
great.
the dark time of that title was also, remember when Shane McMahon was the European champion? And then he just gave the title to Midian because Midian saw it in his bag and was like, hey, can I have this? And Shane's like, go for it. And then so I was like, I think in the middle, right when they introduced it, and then in the middle of the introduction, it suffered some like bad storytelling, and then, but I was like, if they resurrected that, put it on a white strap, and was like, this is the new secondary women's title, which is the European Championship. That would have been awesome, considering they also have a lot of European dates coming in.
Who do you think the first North American
United
States?
United States. I don't know. Online, people are clamoring for Chelsea Green, but again, for me, she deserves it. But if you notice the history of titles, their first champions are usually big stars because you need to establish the title. So I was like, it doesn't. I mean,
is that
please
a SmackDown?
Don't let it be Charlotte.
SmackDown roster?
Yeah, but I'm not sure if they're gonna interbrand it. So that's the thing. But so far, it was just introduced on SmackDown. And I was like, please don't give it to Charlotte Flair. Please do not give it to Charlotte Flair. Yeah. Maybe Natalia, I think, will add some prestige to that. Naomi.
I'm great.
You know, yeah. Man, or they might give to Bayley. Who knows?
Bayley's on SmackDown or Raw?
SmackDown.
I gotta pull up this SmackDown women's roster. Because there's like...
So it's like...
Definitely...
Because there's Chelsea there's Piper, Mia Yim could also be the new...
Michin would be cool.
You know, right? So I was like, they have so many choices, which is hooray for the women's division. And I love that Triple H and Shawn Michaels took the assignment seriously when people were like, you need to build a strong women's division. And they did just that. So yeah, I don't know. I have a feeling it's probably like a Naomi thing. Maybe that was part of the deal when they got her back, where it's like, well, you're gonna be the first women's United States champion, which I think,
She's still signed? I'm on the wrong website. Alexa Bliss.
Did you see Tamina? Oh yeah.
I'm like, dang. Tamina. Wow. What a throwback.
I know. Never got the chance.
And she has such a cool lineage, too, man.
Yeah, and I was like, why isn't she doing bloodline stuff?
Right.
Like, where are the women here?
Oh, that's going to be whack. Because then if they drop the women's tag titles, then Bianca could go for the thing.
Yeah, or Jade.
Yeah.
But my gut is like a Naomi thing.
I think like, it would be really good for Naomi.
Right, to just be like, I'm the first. You know, I can hear her like giving sass the next night. You know, so I'm like, I mean, for me, it's like Natalia or Naomi. Like, give these women their flowers. Yeah. Make them, you know, especially Natalia. You know, Natalia has been around for, you know, and I am not the biggest fan of her when she cuts her promos. I think the reason it's so funny, if you're a women's wrestling fan, you know that Natalia is acting because she gives the same promos in the ring and the same promos in Total Divas. So I was like, yeah, when Natty brings out the Total Divas voice, you know she's acting. Cause it's like, no, Natty, nobody does that. Nobody's that paranoid in real life.
Piper Niven wouldn't be bad. I don't think that would be terrible.
Oh yeah, Piper Niven would be great. I think that, well, you know, she's also a great worker. What was I gonna say? Oh my god, the match in Crown Jewel, I just have to say, never did I realize or never did I imagine that we would see the moves like the Vader Bomb and what was Banzai Drop.
Yeah.
In a women's match.
Wow.
I was like, that was so intense. I was like, I can't believe I'm saying this. We saw those moves in a women's match. Mm-hmm. So I was like, it's amazing. Again, like how the women have come so far. But those are the only things I'm updated about this week. And again, the WWID thing that a lot of people have mixed opinions. I think it's a good thing, although I'm not in the business of wrestling. But
Right.
I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's another way to field talent, right? And I think it's good. Right here's the like natural argument, and then we can kind of wrap this episode up with this kind of discussion, right? Where is it better for them to have bigger rosters or smaller rosters, right? And I think it is a good thing to have a big roster because not everyone has to be in such a pivotal storyline every week, right? Of course, you have your main players, you have your bloodlines, and also, real quick, I hope there's a traditional Survivor Series match where it's like
Oh yeah.
Testament and Wyatt Six. Just give them the like traditional one, the elimination one, you know?
Give us a good show, guy.
Yeah, for real. But I'm saying, yeah, they don't all have to have such a pivotal storyline, right? Where like now we can just get like 1v1 rivalries or like, hey, give me the belt back type rivalries without having to be overly like, am I gonna be a traitor to my best friend type stuff. Like you don't need that all the time.
Yeah.
And I think just a creative, but I think they're finding their pocket, right? Because especially Triple H lived through the Attitude Era where he knows what too far looks like, right?
Yeah.
He also lived through the PG era where he knows where not enough looks like, right?
Yeah.
So finding the kind of middle ground, but like also adding the like variety or range in storytelling, right? Where it is short form, but it's like his long form, but also the short form of the Attitude Era.
Yeah. And I agree with it. People are like, well, what if you're not a WWE ID school? Then you're at a disadvantage. Not necessarily. I think though WWE will always ultimately be the goal for every single wrestler, I think. There are still other promotions and other avenues where you can, show off your chops. Like, you're not a WWID wrestling school, so go to TNA, go to AEW, go to New Japan. Like, do something different, and it's good for me because I think that's the way WWE is. Okay, I think it's Triple H learning from the mistakes of Vince McMahon because Vince never paid attention to the pipeline. He was always about, we'll just poach talents because that's how he started his company.
Yeah.
And I think Triple H was the one who was like, no, when people get injured and all that, it's like, it's so hard to get back on your feet if you don't have a roster with depth that you can, easily substitute a star for someone, which is brilliant. Like what I just said about the women's division, like they don't have the top stars, but look at how good it is.
Yeah.
But I think A, it's having that depth of roster, and then B, it's WWE's way to reach out to their grassroots fans and give back to the business. By giving resources to these indies and these wrestling schools, they're giving them resources that normally they wouldn't have.
Right.
And I think it's also how they see how they can keep the business alive. Because remember when the Attitude Era did so well and then Vince was just, I don't know, the company, I sort of lost direction, like within the middle of, right after the Invasion Era, they were just like, what happened?
Yeah.
And I think they had such a hard time keeping
Because they weren't fighting
fans.
anymore. They weren't fighting against anyone anymore. So there was no like opposition,
Yeah.
and they didn't know how to exist while taking care of their own without having to protect against something else.
Right? And Vince really dropped the ball in that one because by the time WCW closed, they were still almost hitting 2 million viewers a week. And no, they did not move to Monday Night Raw. They just stopped watching wrestling altogether. So I was like, you're looking at millions of people who went to WCW and just stopped. So I think WWE ID is like, okay, as early as you start wrestling, you're gonna see our name there, and you're gonna know it's the goal. And I think it's also like marking their territory, sort of being like, So I think it's good. We'll see. There's gonna be some bad, of course. Hopefully, nothing traumatizing for the wrestlers, but
Right.
you know, I'm sure there's going to be something bad, but at the end of the day, I think the initiative in itself should be something exciting for you know, wrestling fans and aspiring wrestlers, because imagine if, you know, we watch Raw on Netflix or whatever, but because of the WWE ID program, like you and I here in LA, we can watch these indie shows that, you know, have been given resources
Yeah.
to deliver better shows and build communities from
Right.
it. Like, build communities based on these small shows in these big cities, you know? So I'm like, I think it's great. I'm looking forward to it. And I hope I hope it does well.
Yeah, for sure. Before we end this episode, we're gonna do our weekly 3 count. Do you have one?
Yes.
Do you have one in mind?
No, I don't.
Okay, so
No.
we're gonna go your top 3. Your top 3 intercontinental champions.
Oh, that is so good. Oh my god, top 3? How can you only have 3 intercontinental champions? First one for me, just out of love and respect and everything, Goldust. 3-time intercontinental champion
Nice.
Goldust. I think he was my first one, and oh my god, who's number 2?
I'm gonna go. We'll do a trade off. I'll go Razor Ramon, the bad guy.
Yeah, the one Goldust beat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god, I remember he refused to wrestle Goldust because he didn't want to be in a queer match
Yeah.
because his son's gonna watch. And I'm just like, I'm so glad we're out of that.
Past that. Yeah.
Yeah. So who did I like as in China? God
Wow,
damn it! Sorry.
nice.
I'm like,
That's a good pick.
I was like, China. I was just thinking about her today, this morning. I don't know why, but that person had such a big impact in my life too, because she showed you that you didn't have to follow the standards, that you didn't have to check all the boxes, that you just had to be that person who believed in themselves and you could, you know, change the world. And she did just that. She was really larger than life and she changed wrestling forever. So, yeah, I got China.
Oh, shout out to China. I have. You know what? Number 2. I have to do it. Jey Uso. Like,
Oh, yeah.
it was such a the reason why is it was such a like needed thing for him. Like, the fans wanted it and they finally gave it to us, and it didn't have to be a long run, but like as long as he got it on the resume, great.
Yeah, he deserved it. And I think I would close my list with The Miz. There is no other intercontinental champion than The Miz. But I have to have a bonus shout out to Zack Ryder winning it at WrestleMania.
Nice.
I think that was a very good moment.
Mine. I'm gonna go Shawn Michaels.
Oh, yeah.
Like the ladder match. Great.
Great. Actually,
Um,
Bret Hart was also a pretty good IC champ.
yeah.
And The Rock, oh my god, The Rock was the Attitude Era Intercontinental Champion with a purple strap belt. That was the funkiest looking IC title. I was like, why is it purple?
Right.
But I Rock, I remember, yeah.
Honorable mentions, Bret Hart and The Rock for sure. All right, Chop and Chatters. That's been another episode. We're your hosts. I'm Dre, aka Yeetsilog.
I'm Anil, aka Big Time Beki.
And we will see you next time. I know, it's so good. All right, we'll see you
For more
next
Chop
time
and Chat.
on Chop and Chat. Bye.
Yes.